You are listening to the Wannabe Collective, your new variety podcast featuring every fandom that you could possibly think of. On the Wannabe Collective, all wannabes are welcome. Hello, salutations, welcome everyone to the show. You are listening to the Wannabe Collective. We have a good show for you tonight. We are going through Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And I am very, very excited to be accompanied by my fellow co-hosts as well as a guest for this episode. We have one Aaron McCoy joining us, and we will get to him in just a second. But as always, I am joined by Caleb Henley and usually Mikey Collins if he decides not to dip out, and actually be a part of the show. So, God rest Rex and Ryan Souls tonight because, they're no longer with us. But, maybe next time. Maybe, we'll see what happens. But Caleb, how you feeling, bro?
I'm excited, actually, about this one. It's going to be a fun podcast. Plus, one of my best friends is getting to join us on the show, and I'm pretty stoked about that. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny how whenever you try and make plans to podcast and, whenever I was racking my brain, I was like, God, I really want a fourth for this show, and then Aaron was like, it was like almost immediately, it's almost like he belongs already. So just to prep you all, I am having some technical difficulties tonight. So if I, dip out or whatever, I'll rejoin as I can, but Caleb will definitely pick up the slack should I have to take a leave of absence. I listened to an episode.
Drop out as he just did at that moment where he's talking about dropping out. Mikey, how are things going for you, bro?
What are the chances? Oh my gosh. I'm doing good. How you been?
Oh, so good. This is going to be a fun one. I can already tell. We'll go ahead and apologize, but not really apologize for Gabe. He'll probably be with us for about 25% of the show tonight, everybody. And we'll go to Aaron. Aaron, how are things going for you?
Things are going pretty good. Yeah, super stoked to be here. Kind of been talking about it for a while. Good to make it happen.
Cool.
Yeah,
Gabe, how are things going for you?
Man, it's not great. I am not doing well over here. This is like the third time I've dipped this time, but yeah, like I was saying before, being able to have Aaron join us is really awesome, and hopefully it's not the last time. So, did you already throw it over to Mikey?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Mikey just said, he's doing fine. Maybe we should change topics, that way it doesn't get jinxed. And hopefully I can dip out at the right times. So, Aaron, we're actually going to start with you tonight. We're going to mosey back on over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your Star Wars fandom? What kind of fan are you?
I'm probably a very unconventional Star Wars fan because growing up, my mom would always tell us, me and my brothers, that Star Wars is not a real place. We would just talk about it, the characters, like they were, people across the road, But I think that's also a detriment because, I'm now just watching Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. Because, for me, Star Wars was episodes 4, 5, and 6. So that's for me, that's Star Wars. And, I've always been all about the original trilogy. So here we are expanding the horizons and kind of delving deeper into what Star Wars is.
That's beautiful. It's like you belong here, Aaron. Welcome. You're welcome here. That's cool. I'll definitely be interested to hear what you have to say about this movie. Attack of the Clones, I think, is widely regarded as being the most hated. It feels like, it's either this one or The Last Jedi. Some people say they like this one better than The Last Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see what our thoughts are tonight. I went into this with a very new perspective. It's crazy how much, the animated series kind of changes your views as we're rewatching the series and you're kind of starting to see how it all fits together. And I'm excited to definitely have your thoughts, Aaron. So for real though, welcome. Is there anything that you've been doing? Usually we do like a catch-up session, a little bit between all of us of what we've been up to and stuff like that. So is there anything remarkable that you'd like to, start with?
I get to do some cool stuff for work. I work in drones, UAVs, and aviation. So, kind of like real world techie cool things. We've been super busy. Seems like after COVID, all the industry's picking up, so we get to work with a lot of cool companies. I think so far this year we've worked with Red Bull, Facebook, SpaceX, just all in the last couple months. So, it's keeps me busy during the day.
Wow. It's this crazy thing. Like, you get cool people on a show like this, and it just so happens that they know a lot of cool people that do really cool and interesting things. So thank you for sharing that with us. I will definitely be asking you more about your drone. We were talking a little bit off mic. I just bought one, so you have to tell me all the ins and outs about that. But Caleb, let's throw it over to you, man. What have you been up to?
Not much. I actually just got back from a 3-week long trip. Finally getting to see a little bit of family. Got to see Emily's family in Michigan, and then actually just coming back from Missouri, where I got to spend some time with Gabe and Emma and my family. So, yeah, just been trying to kind of catch back up on things since then. Catching back up on some episodes of like Bad Batch and Loki, which enjoying both of those so far. Those are both been pretty cool. And that's basically it. I mean, just kind of same old other than that.
Yes, Caleb, we did hang out. That did happen, and we played golf, and it was great. It was glorious. I had a great time, and yeah, it was great to be able to hang out in person and play some games and just chill with the fam. So, Mikey, what have you been up to?
Just playing this sweet PlayStation 5. Mostly that, and I would like to say working, but I really haven't been having a lot of work lately. So I've been able to dive deep into the gaming industry. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot as usual because I'm a boring person. But yeah.
Mikey, I don't agree with your like boring person take because you actually have some of the strangest takes out of any person I've ever met. Like, I feel like I'll have you pegged like on any type of subject, and then you totally redeem yourself. Like, you completely blow me out of the water with what you're going to say. I can never predict what you're going to say. So it's always fun. But yeah, we've been obviously doing some episodes of Game Club. And I can't wait to, do more episodes of Game Club with PS5 games. That'll be awesome. Then it'll feel more like an actual club. Like, oh, I have a PS5 too. Like, I wonder what these guys think, see what happens. So, as far as me, I guess it's my turn. I haven't been up to anything too crazy. I've been working, just making videos. I've taken, it's been almost a month. It's been a little over a month actually, since I posted anything to my YouTube channel personally. And it's been a nice break to kind of like reevaluate, kind of compartmentalize. We did axe a couple of projects over here. Wannabe music reviews in podcast form is no longer a thing, just in case you missed that memo. So hot takes will remain as a video, which is that I love doing that, eating the spicy peppers and collaborating with other creators to get their takes on music and stuff like that. But as far as like individual music reviews, those are going bye-bye. So, and also we had announced a Star Wars RPG podcast at one point in time, but unfortunately that is officially delayed indefinitely until further notice. So just, sometimes you get ideas and life just gets in the way. But we do have one thing that we added. You can mosey on over to the Wannabe Critic podcast. I had been relatively quiet about what would happen over there on that podcast feed. And it is going to continue to have content there, solo content from me, and as well as one other podcast, which we are calling Punch Counterpunch. This is going to be the goal is to have it monthly, our monthly reaction to the previous month's news, things that we find noteworthy, things that we find interesting. And basically, it will be in podcast form over there on that podcast feed, but we're going to view it as like a mini series of videos. So each video will be posted over on the Wannabe Critics channel, which is in the description down below. And that'll be posted throughout the month. So you can either view it, you can either get our takes in webisode form, or you can sit through the entire podcast. It's your choice, but it's a nice steady stream of content for an entire month. And I kind of like the name Punch Counterpunch. It's like, a counter comes whenever you least expect it, even if it's too late. You know what I mean? For us, and in true wannabe fashion, like, delivering a month old news, as it continues. It seems like the best thing, but you got to think about it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the goal, like really diving into the thoughts of what we think. And I think Mikey described it best. He said it's like nerd therapy. So definitely go check that out. And that's me and Ethan Maestri, by the way, who has officially joined the Wannabe family. So good times, also some sad times, cutting some stuff out, but definitely go check that out. So, well, I don't want to drag this out any farther or any longer than we have to. Let's just get right into the review of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I almost call it Clone Wars like every time, but I caught myself. I might have done it in the beginning, but I caught myself. Mikey, I think you have the synopsis for us, if I am not mistaken. So why don't you go ahead and read that for us?
Wait, you want the synopsis or do you want the crawl?
Well, the crawl. Yeah, I mean the crawl, like we did last time.
Gotcha. In a world. No. There is unrest in the Galaxy Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. This separatist movement, under the leadership of the mysterious Count Dooku, has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on the critical issue of creating an Army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi.
Thank you, Mikey. That was great. No mistakes or anything. Proud of you. So what's the pulse for Attack of the Clones? Caleb, do you like this movie?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really tough question. Like, it's okay to watch sometimes, and sometimes it's the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it just kind of depends where you're at in life at the moment. It's okay, I guess. Kind of along the same lines with Phantom Menace. If you don't think too hard about it, it's not too unbearable. And there's some good parts of the movie, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Mikey.
I like the second half of this movie. Can I say that?
No.
As a whole, yes.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
Shockingly.
yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Aaron. Aaron, do you like this movie?
Yeah.
I do. I mean, it's not like my favorite movie, but I really don't have a lot of the issues with it that a lot of people do. Like, I think when you look at them as a big picture, all three, original, and then you go into the like 1, 2, 3, they're not as bad as people make them out to be. I can sit and watch one for sure. Not all three at the same time, but I'll watch one.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, what's kind of your, is that kind of how you feel about the prequels as a whole? Like they're fine, like they're just okay type thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing special. I there's parts of each movie that I really like. The pod race. Like, you have to be kind of lame to not think that's awesome. Or like Attack of the Clones, like her giant chrome spaceship. Like, is that a little extra? Yes, but is it what we wanted? Yes. Bounty hunters. Bottom level Coruscant. There's a lot of cool things that if you just take them like that, it's a good movie.
Okay, well said. I can definitely appreciate that for sure. I like that you mentioned bottom level Coruscant, because I've always thought that was a really cool, atmosphere to be a part of. If you had asked me, it's kind of one of those things, man, like with Phantom Menace, if you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, the last time we reviewed these movies, if I liked this movie, I think my words verbatim were, I will never watch this movie again. Kind of in the same line of, with Phantom Menace. I found myself liking the positive things more and being less bothered by the cringy things, just because I knew it was kind of coming. But we'll get into that. So I will say, you know how I feel about decimals, so I can't say I think it's fine, but I will say that I like this movie, to some degree. So there's that. All right, let's get into the positives. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you wrote into us at the Wannabe Collective, your thoughts would have been heard. Or if you replied to our tweet where we tried to get what you thought of the movie, you would your thoughts will be read at the end of the show. So definitely be on the lookout for those whenever we have those tweets because we read them all. Unless we have like 100 or something. So, but we'll also, since Ryan couldn't be here, he sent in his thoughts and we will definitely read those along with it. So, all right, Caleb, why don't you kick us off? What are the things you really like about this movie?
So I really like the part where Padme and Anakin are in the field on Naboo, and Anakin's riding one of those weird cow things, and he falls off and he gets trampled. It's one of my favorite parts in the movie. No, for real, Aaron actually already commented on a couple of my favorite parts. Love that kind of opening with the Naboo ships, like the Naboo starfighters, which are one of my favorite ships in all of Star Wars, and I wish they got more screen time than what they actually get. They're just really cool, really well designed ships that really stand out, and the whole kind of bombing, it's really cool. I love the underworld and the chase sequence, and they're in the club with the bounty hunter, and all of that is really well done. I like when the clones show up. That's really cool, and I like the scene with the animals attacking Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme. Actually, like, it's pretty good and climatic, and yeah, I like all of that. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that for now.
All right, Mikey, what's kind of your positive takes on this movie?
My positive takes. Well, I mean, who doesn't love like a really good like 30 Jedis just going for it with like hundreds of droids? That's pretty awesome. I mean, you don't see that often in this, like, even this whole franchise. You don't see that many Jedi fighting together at the same time. It's pretty cool. And then just like the imagery of some place, like the scene where it's just the clones, like the first fights that you see them just in that dust storm and all those lasers are going past them. That was really cool. Like I forgot that was in this movie. There was just a lot of cooler things towards the end of the movie, like Yoda absorbing lightning. That's always cool. Like there's so many battle moments that are really awesome in this movie, but then there's other things that I don't like.
Much to learn, you still have.
Yeah. But Dooku, I really liked Dooku when I was a kid. I thought that was a really cool character. After this watch, I thought that was going to be a positive thing, but he's kind of, not no pun intended, but grown old a little on me. I don't like his character as much as I used to.
Well, he's dead now, Mikey.
I know, and I'm not knocking the guy's like acting ability, but I just, I don't know. After watching the Clone Wars and all that,
don't you ever talk bad about freaking
what's his real name?
What's his face?
Yeah,
the guy from he's Saruman the Wise in Lord of the Rings. Don't you ever talk bad about him? What is his name though? Actually, I can't remember. Someone's gonna be like, someone's listening in their car, like, "How dare you!" Like like yelling, like yelling.
Yeah. That I kind of
Christopher Lee.
Oh, okay. Christopher Lee. I'm just gonna keep going. I kind of, since Gabe's not here, this is the perfect time. In defense of Anakin and Padme, I feel like they're both decent actors, but I hate them together. Like, every moment that they're in, I'm like, oh, has her emotion is intense and his is totally flat. It's like they're acting different scenes,
Well, this brings up a good point of, is George Lucas and crew, are they action, like Western, space, or are they like rom-com writers?
Yeah.
I feel like it's too much of a mix of genre that they tried to put into like a love aspect of the story.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely not their strong suit to be writing this romance, which is kind of essential to the story of Star Wars, since we're trying to figure out who in the world Luke and Leia's parents are. But yeah, it just is not well written at all. They should have brought like what's the guy John Hughes in to just write all of that or something.
John Hughes, the 16 Candles
Guy
guy?
that did, yeah, and Breakfast Club, and well,
That-
I guess that's more of coming of age. But yeah,
Interesting.
that would work.
Wasn't that George
Right,
Lucas? Isn't
coming
that
of
George
age.
Lucas' friend?
Yeah,
Aren't they friends? I think.
are they friends?
I think.
If they are, I'm gonna be even more mad that that's not something that happened, because that probably could have made this a little better.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
No.
We were just trash talking about the love relationship of Anakin and Padme behind your back.
Wow, I would say I'm gone for 5 seconds. We've already switched to the negatives. All right. I see how
Well,
it is.
I started in defense of it, but then it just kind of went downhill.
Wait, you were.
I wouldn't allow it.
You were okay. Thank you, Caleb. I'm sure it'll be.
Yeah.
It's kind of. It's kind of a treat for me, honestly, because now I'll like look forward to what I missed while I was gone for those few seconds. So, is there any
Now you got,
positives?
like, eight sections to look forward to.
Yeah, it'll be fine. That's what happened last time for Phantom, so it's whatever.
Did it?
Oh yeah, dude, it was
Dang.
horrible. That took me 4 hours to edit. It was horrible.
Holy.
I started editing at like 10, and I think I ended it at like 1. But until I get this internet fixed, that's just the name of the game. So,
Yeah.
Aaron, what are your positive takes?
Positive takes. I think I'm starting to appreciate more that like what the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, this was kind of a blip in the trilogy's radar, and then like in the bigger Skywalker saga, but what this has laid the groundwork for. The clones, you have the Separatists, the Republic, this whole like feud before the original saga feud. And I've really appreciated how this has, like I said, it's been like a blip in the movies, Clone Wars. It's talked about even in episode 4, but here we are. We have so much more to delve into. I think kind of similar vein. I'm a very like visuals, like what does this movie like do for me? Like where does it put me? Like where does this transport me? The whole like kind of retro Art Deco style of Geonosis, I thought that was really cool. And they kind of had like these sort of almost, vintage American retro space, like circles and, like the legs on the walker, the spaceships. It was kind of all of it together was kind of a cool take on creating a whole new side of Star Wars that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't think I'd ever really appreciated Geonosia, Geonosia, whatever you want to call it, until probably this watch through. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a pretty cool planet. And the inhabitants there are pretty cool as well. So, and just to kind of like their whole background, kind of working on the Death Star plans and stuff like that. It's pretty rad, kind of seeing that come together. Was there anything else positives wise before we got to the negatives? And I have several positives, surprisingly. Go ahead, Aaron.
The memes. We need to like, this could be its own segment, but like the fact that there's, 1.5 memes per 1 minute of movie, like, like where would Star Wars culture be if it wasn't for like hundreds and hundreds of memes?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like that newest one right now, the like the something, it's like Anakin and Padme going back and forth. Like you're gonna do this
for the
thing.
better, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's hilarious. Caleb, did you have something to say?
I love that meme so much. I also there's a video, I think it's from like an outtake of like Obi-Wan, and while he's like in the speeder and he's just like dancing, like he has this like just flowing hair and locks, and he's just like the happiest man in the world in it. Every time I see it, it makes me laugh. But one of the other things, I love Slave One in this too. Like I love Camino, but that chase too between Slave One and Obi-Wan and the seismic charges, which are still probably like one of my favorite weapons in all of Star Wars. And when I saw them brought back in The Mandalorian, I about crapped my pants. I love those things. And I love that part of this movie too. It's really cool.
Nice. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, God, the sound that makes, like the wow 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 wow, just so rad. Even though there's no sound in space. So no, I'm sorry. And no, it is really cool, and it was so cool to see that brought back in the Mandalorian. Mikey, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
On what
Positives?
you were saying? Oh, no, not really.
All right.
I didn't. No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
get into it.
I would say I have several here. So first things first, I like that Obi-Wan and Anakin is kind of like their chemistry is pretty consistent. And even though like this is kind of the precedent that's set in episodes 2 and 3, which goes on to make Clone Wars make more sense and like their relationship make more sense. I thought it worked really well here, and I think it's cool that they were able to create stuff after that to make that relationship feel better in this movie. So I just appreciate that across the board. It's just nice and it's nice in full circle. It's totally consistent. I think this movie is much better looking than the first movie. Just in terms of like CGI and stuff like that. Like that scene whenever Obi-Wan, he's like holding on to the thing and, he's like soaring over Coruscant. And I thought that looked pretty cool, especially for the time that it came out in. I like how they make pointed attempts to make the political intrigue and, the political plays from Palpatine make more sense. For example, like him establishing kind of like establishing the tendrils with Anakin very early on. You can towards the beginning, he's like, you can see him continuing to groom him, and stuff like that. As well as whenever he's talking to his associate in front of Jar Jar Binks, and he's like, oh, if only someone would speak up, if only a senator would speak up. That kind of validates Jar Jar's position at that point, because you see that Palpatine has things set up in the Republic. Like, I think I finally figured out like what Jar Jar's place is in the Senate. And like, he's there basically representing the intelligence of everybody, because whenever he does his thing and he's like recommending, I'll get to you in a second, Aaron. Whenever he's doing his thing and, recommending that immediate power should be given over to Chancellor Palpatine and stuff like that, everyone's like booming in applause. I think that's kind of like showing where the Republic is at, like that, because they're evidently agreeing with him. So it's like almost Jar Jar's kind of the mouthpiece for everybody. Aaron first, then Caleb, since he raised his hand first. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that of all the avenues I expected you to take, validation for Jar Jar was definitely not even an option. Like that's a pretty wild take on that movie, but I see it. I see where you're coming from, but I love it.
Go ahead, Caleb.
So what you're saying is that one of the dumbest characters in all of Star Wars is just reflecting how dumb the entire Senate was in that moment, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think that works, but yeah, it is like, man, thinking Jar Jar ruined everything and had a kind of integral piece in creating the Galactic Empire, because yeah, he was able to create the clones that eventually turned on the Jedi, and yeah, it's kind of wild and crazy that things fell into place to where the Chancellor could very easily corrupt and persuade one of the dumber characters in all of Star Wars.
It literally hit me like a bolt of lightning. Sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, still a better character than Rey Skywalker, Palpatine, Imposter Girl, but that's for a different show.
We can't go a Star Wars episode without bringing her up. We really can't.
It's gonna happen. I just accepted it. No, it did. It hit me like a bolt of lightning this time though, because I was watching it pretty intently, and I don't know if I've never noticed that scene before, or if it's just like they added that scene in for the Disney Plus version, but I had never remembered that. And then it kind of hit me all at once. I was like, that's kind of genius to use Jar Jar in that way. And it's even more genius to imply that Palpatine is the one that kind of put all that into motion and like made all of that happen. And we have like a tangible manifestation of what he wanted to happen and watching Jar Jar be manipulated that way makes sense. So yeah, it's like we found redemption in a way for Jar Jar Binks, who I have gone on and on, but yeah, I can't believe I'm vouching for Jar Jar here. It's kind of crazy.
I don't think that's redeeming though. He was just being dumb Jar Jar, and he did a dumb thing. And yeah, like, I don't know. You don't have Bail Organa like out there like doing that. It's Jar Jar. Like, he took the dumb one, the like weakest member of the Senate who's not even supposed to be there. The only reason he's there is because Padme's like life is in danger. I don't think it's redeeming for him at all. I just think it's like kind of crazy that the rest of the Senate went along with it because they're under the guise of Palpatine or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I think it was more of a thing of like not Jar Jar being redeemed as a character, but at least he had a purpose, and like what everything that was happening had made sense. It's like, okay, if Jar Jar is going to be in the Senate, I guess it makes sense for him to be used as a tool, as you said, to bring down the Republic. So, but no, I do feel bad for Jar Jar, but anyways, I'm gonna move on to my next point. So. Oh yeah, and kind of going along with Palpatine's, kind of having his effect on Anakin, and kind of establishing that that opposition from Obi-Wan immediately. He's like, oh, he's just like he's just another politician. You don't want to get wrapped up in him. But also in that moment, they were able to kind of show the Jedi are clueless. They're not even thinking about Palpatine. They're not even like giving it a second thought that he might be the one. Manipulating everything. And there's a few sneaky scenes here where I was like, wow, they showed you right there, and there, and they did an even better job of kind of, showcasing the Jedi's moxie, and kind of their pride in this movie. I really like the music a lot in this movie. I do think, kind of going back to my last point, the irony of the Jedi pride. Yoda's like talking about, basically, I can't remember exactly what he said. I missed it. But essentially, he's talking about himself, and he doesn't even realize it, which, kind of made him look dumb there. But I think that was the intent. And yeah, I think the last thing I have wrote down for my pros is just kind of Palpatine. He's used the same tricks over and over again. We see it here. It's kind of a mirror of what we see in the original trilogy whenever he's walking with Vader about what's happening on the Death Star and stuff like that. Before the Death Star is even constructed, he's walking down, a big open hangar with Dooku. And it's like, oh, whatever, tactics he has used over and over and over and over again haven't failed him, and trying to get on, in someone's good graces. So it really speaks to kind of the power that Palpatine has, just as a, he's a true politician. So there you have it. All right, that's all the pros I had. And sorry if I'm kind of speeding it along. I just want to make sure we can kind of try and keep the flow going without, me dipping out. Watch me dip out right then. So I'm going to kick us off with the cons since I'm still here, and then we can kind of go from there because I'm pretty sure we all have, we're going to make quick work of these cons. There's no reason to like just go on for an hour about the things that suck about this movie. So we already talked about Padme and Anakin. Apparently, I wasn't here. It's just cringe. I mean, it's so cringy. It's, Padme's character makes zero sense. Her, just everything that she does, like all of a sudden she's like, I love you. Like that moment is not earned. Also, like this is a young man and you're out here, by the fireplace wearing like, lingerie basically. I'm like, good God, Anakin, like I feel bad for you, bro. Like what are you wearing, Padme?
How old is Anakin supposed to be in this movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. Does anyone know? Is it what he says it's been years, 4 years, 8 years? Yeah, it hasn't been as long as you think it would.
So just say he's 18.
Yeah, I guess.
Probably. Because he was 9 or 10, and he was supposed to be 9 or 10 in Phantom, right?
Yeah, can someone look that up, actually? That way we can...
He is 19 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
In episode 2.
And that 10 means Padme is supposed to be like 23 or something like that?
Because it takes place 10 years after the Phantom Menace.
Wow, that's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, I guess, like Padme hitting on him in the first movie, I guess, it is not, I mean, That's worse for sure. It's less cringy in this movie. Padme totally like playing both sides of the mill. Like, I love you, no, I don't. I love you, no, I don't. It's irritating and cringy, and it's rough and coarse and gets everywhere. um, it's dude. Every time that line happens, I'm like, why? Like, what was George Lucas thinking whenever that was happening? I can't even talk about it. Does anyone else want to elaborate on Padme and Anakin? Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, that was part of the glorious conversation you missed. Is my thought is George Lucas and crew, as I called him earlier, they're not rom-com writers. This is definitely out of their wheelhouse. It was a little cringy, and I think for good reason. But it makes it that much better. Because once again, think of the memes. Think of the memes we've got.
The chef's kiss memes, at their finest. Caleb, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's just really hard. The only one that I think that tops the "I hate sand" is Padme. Right before that, she says, "I love the water." It's just every time I hear it, it makes me crack up laughing because it's just so cringy and terrible. But yeah, I think to Aaron's point, yeah, it just wasn't well written. I don't necessarily want to criticize the acting because I think both of them are fine actors. I think it's more of just the direction and the writing that they were given. And of course, like we know too that like, being a Naboo, like Padme is supposed to have this like very, I don't know, weird air about her that we saw in the first movie too, which just doesn't add anything to it. And then Anakin's just the worst. But I don't think it's on the actors. I think it's on the writing and the direction. And that's the other thing. It just makes me sad. And I went over this last time we went over these movies was that it's just like, I want Anakin and then Darth Vader to be a more relatable and redeemable character. And it's just like in this movie, I just don't feel like he isn't, because he goes and he murders all of the sand people and all this stuff. And he's just dealing with his emotions. And the entire time, he's just not likable at all. Like there's no part of Anakin that really he's cocky. He's arrogant. He's charges Count Dooku because he's just being stupid. He's like basically like sexually harassing Padme from the moment that he sees her. It's really rough to like watch. And I just don't understand why we couldn't have a more relatable and redeemable character where it'd make it more powerful when he turns back and helps Luke in the end, because that's what I want. But we definitely don't get that in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like all those moments are found like within Clone Wars for sure.
I agree.
And it's
yeah,
like
I
we don't
agree.
have anything in the movies. And yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's not funny. Like sexual harassment obviously is not funny, but like literally it's just bad directed sexual harassment. Cause she's like, don't talk to me that way. It makes me uncomfortable. And he's like, sorry, Your Majesty. And he's like, like giving her like the smoldering look. It's like, what? Like, ugh. It's not great. So, go ahead, Mikey.
I part of me wonders as if because maybe it's part of him coming into the Jedi organization so late. Maybe that's partially why. I think maybe what he was going for with Anakin's like awkward weirdness with Padme, because he did know her before he was ever a Jedi. So I feel like that's why it's so weird, because he was kind of in the beginning stages of becoming like a normal kid in that universe. But now, since he was already developing in that where he grew up, he's basically having to suppress all that. So I get what they were going for, and I think that's why it comes across so awkward, is because he still is that kid, basically. He never got to go past that. Sorry, Caleb, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with that too. I wish that there was a little bit more of an explanation as to why he's this way, because he just comes off as such a jerk, and without really much of an explanation. Because yeah, the last time we as an audience see him, he's just a kid on Naboo, and like he's supposed to be a lovable character that you root for, and he blew up that, droid, control ship and all this stuff. And now he's just like this total jerk of a teenage kid. And I guess unless you're like, a parent who has a teenager and you're like, oh yeah, that's how teenagers are. They're the worst. Like, that's not fun for anybody. It's just really weird. And I don't get why they couldn't at least gotten a little bit of an explanation. Like maybe something happened while him and Obi-Wan were together that made him that way, or we see like where Obi-Wan treats him a certain way that causes him to be that. But every time we see, like, Obi-Wan's pretty patient and understanding with him, like throughout this whole movie. It's not like he's being an abusive trainer or anything. It's weird to try to piece together how he became how he is. It's just really weird.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I could say to that, and it's not really as explicit or, on the nose, is we do see a very distinct kind of pushback from Anakin at the very beginning of this movie. Like, he's arguing with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's basically, he's not being a douche to him or anything like that. He's just like, you'll learn your place, as he should. He's Anakin's trainer, he's Anakin's master. That's how it should be. And I think that they missed an opportunity to kind of showcase, had Anakin maybe been more tantrumy, because he's kind of calm and collected, and he just takes his discipline and whatever. But had he kind of been like, Kylo Ren a little bit in that moment, it could have been somewhat of an indicator, because he does the same thing again, to Padme later, whenever they're, she's talking to those, officials and things like that. And you see him kind of like bull up for a second and, give her sass or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of showing us, they're not really showing us or telling us that, hey, these are the indicators as to why Anakin is behaving this way. So yeah, no, I totally agree with what Caleb was saying for sure. Did I miss someone's hand? I feel like I missed somebody. Go ahead, Mikey.
Sometimes I think about this story and how kind of impossible this role is for Hayden Christensen, because it's not like the Han Solo situation where he was literally taking up somebody's role. It was almost like people grew up watching the original trilogy, and then they saw Phantom Menace as him as a kid, and then they expected this grand like story, kind of like what we're wishing they did. But in reality, doesn't most people's like teenage years, like, aren't they awful and awkward and weird? Like, I don't agree that they're a good like couple or anything like that, or like that they are the best actors for the roles. But if they were going for awkwardness, which is how I like to think they were doing, they nailed it, as like some weird teenagers. And I don't think people were expecting that. And I don't think that's what was intended. But if you look at it that way, I feel like they nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. But to my point earlier where I was talking about John Hughes movies, it's like the teenagers in that movie, those types of movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or The Breakfast Club or whatever, 16 Candles, whatever, like they can be awkward and have their awkwardness, but they're not so cringeworthy to watch and so bad that you don't even want to root for them. It's just, that's kind of the thing. It's like these ones are just kind of irredeemable for some reason. They're just like such to a level of extreme and awkwardness and cringiness and all of this stuff that it's really hard to get back on and root for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you bring up a good point, Caleb, with like John Hughes movies and stuff like that. And to me personally, I think whenever there's a big difference between trying to sell, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and sell Star Wars and stuff too, obviously. But you should be looking at those types of relationships found in those movies, because whenever they have their kiss moment in the archway going out to the arena, and she's like, I love you, like part of me has been dying since like I saw you, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing in that performance. There's no indicators there that she's feeling that way, and it's just weird. It is just weird. It is a weird, awkward, like you can cut the air with the knife. Like it is just so awkward. Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
I just realized this. Every romance in Star Wars, like the movies, they're all awkward. Every single one of them.
Is George
So-
Lucas married?
I was gonna say, I was like, this is what happens
He
whenever
got divorced.
this is what happens.
So maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, I was like, this is what happens whenever a nerd tries to write a romance. I just don't know that it ends pretty. But I don't know. All those things aside, obviously we don't want, like I said, we don't want to spend an hour hating on this romance. Aaron, were you defending the Padme and Anakin, whatnots, or was that you? That was you, Mikey. Okay. Aaron's like, no, hard pass.
I
Like,
wasn't
wasn't me.
defending it, but I was just trying to try to put myself in their shoes and see where they were coming from. But it's still weird.
No,
It's
his actual words were in their defense. So I think he was defending.
I
them.
was defending.
Oh, shots fired. Mikey has met his match, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, well, we're gonna move on unless anyone else. I think we'll read Ryan's thoughts here in a bit.
Oh,
About how he felt. We'll just kind of rattle them all off. I'm still on my cons, just so you know. So I'm gonna rattle these off really fast.
I thought these were all positives.
Kind of going back into the Padme and Anakin thing just a little bit. It's just bad acting. I think there's some pretty bad performances here in this movie. Ewan McGregor does the best job. Jango Fett's, I almost call him Jango Fett's kid, Boba Fett. I just don't see he's a kid. I get it. I don't, being a child actor would probably be like the worst thing ever. But I don't know. I just don't really buy Boba Fett in this movie. It feels kind of forced. Okay, I have a plot thing. This is my last con, and it's one of those things where it just kind of feels like it's just too perfect of a situation, and I wish we would have some clarity. So when Anakin finds Shmi, does anyone else think that that's just kind of weird whenever he finds her and then she dies immediately after he finds her?
The Force drew them together for that last final moment, Gabe.
Okay.
I was gonna say, wasn't there some clarification in some probably non-canological book or source where it was essentially that?
It definitely feels like there probably is
her willpower and then the Force and him trying to find her. I feel like I could be making this up, but I feel like there was some explanation as to that.
I think there's a comic about the moment leading up to when he finds her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the name, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there is.
Okay. Well, I was just curious. I don't know. To me, it just was man, this just feels a little too perfect. The moment he finds her, she dies. So, but whatever. Whatever. That's that's my last one. All right. So everyone said, or I said my cons. You know what? We're gonna throw it to Caleb. Caleb, what are your biggest problems with this movie?
I wish that we knew a little bit more about why the separatists were separating beforehand, because we're kind of just thrown into it with the crawl. I mean, we saw the first movie in the Trade Federation and Naboo, but what else has led to them wanting to separate other than, just we need some adversary? I wish there was a little bit more explained there, because I don't think we get a whole lot of explanation as to why they want to separate. And that's kind of some of the more interesting stuff in the Clone Wars that I like, is seeing kind of how the separatists work and what they want and stuff. But we don't really get that in this movie. Another thing, so there's this video that I love, and it's about the assassination attempt on Padme. And I think it just kind of demonstrates just kind of how stupid it is, where it's Palpatine wants to kill Padme, but he doesn't want to do it himself. So he asks Count Dooku to kill Padme, but he doesn't want to do it himself. So he hires Jango Fett to kill Padme, but he doesn't want to do it himself. So he hires some bounty hunter to kill Padme, but she doesn't want to do it himself. So she sends a robot to kill Padme, but he doesn't want to do it himself. So that robot sends worms to kill Padme, and then of course it doesn't work. But it's just this weird chain of nobody wanting to just take a sniper rifle and snipe Padme for whatever reason, that it gives us this scene where basically Anakin storms Padme's bedroom and ends up like kind of staring at her. Like you have to like Padme doesn't know what just happened. She just wakes up and all that she sees is like Anakin like standing over her with a lightsaber in the middle of the night.
He's
having
all,
no idea what
like,
just happened.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I'll just mention is this movie is really long. It's 2.5 hours long, which I think that would make it one of the longer Star Wars movies. And we don't really get the main action in this movie until the very, very end. I'm pretty sure until like past the 2-hour mark. I mean, we get like the fight between Jango and Obi-Wan and the, chase through Coruscant, but that's kind of like it. So it's just kind of really kind of slow going and slow moving, and just it's a long movie.
I agree. Well said, Caleb. Mikey, let's throw it to you.
So in Phantom Menace, there's that whole field fight scene, and it's not great CGI, but the rest of the movie actually has pretty decent CGI. Why does Phantom Menace have better CGI than this movie? Everything except the Clone Wars looked so bad. Is that just me? Go ahead.
I don't know the specifics, and maybe somebody somewhere is going to tell me I'm completely wrong. But wasn't this one of the first movies that marked a like stark contrast between like the old way of making movies and digital production of movies? Like, wasn't this one of those key movies?
Maybe.
And I think that was kind of the downfall, especially between this one and episode 3, was they were trying to highlight the technology more than the story. But don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive this was one of those movies that marked the change from like essentially film format to digital.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense because the full digital parts, like where the clones and all that all looked really great. But like one scene that really stood out to me was the where they're making the robots and like he got his arm stuck in the stamper and all that. All that looked so bad. It was so bad, and you would think that would be the most easy thing to, do. But I'm not. I'm also not a tech guy, so I don't know how hard that is. But man, and I don't know. That just really got me. And then, am I the only person that hates the Padawan hair? Like, why is
terrible.
That a thing?
It's terrible.
It's so bad. Why do you make people do that? I mean, that is one of my bigger things with Anakin, because I'm like, if you just had like normal hair, maybe you wouldn't be so weird. But he has that little rat tail in every single emotional scene. I'm like, God, what? What's up,
Mikey?
Caleb?
It's so funny you say that, because literally my last thought watching this movie was you get that scene where Padme and Anakin are getting married, and Anakin's rocking the rat tail, and I'm just like sitting there thinking, like, George Lucas, you didn't have to do that. Like, why is that a thing? Why did this? And I thought about it for like 5 minutes of like, why is that a thing that exists? Like, why? Like, how in the world did we get to this? It's so bad.
Yeah, because I know Obi-Wan had it in the Phantom Menace, but Anakin's already an unconventional Padawan. He doesn't have to do that as well, And I don't know, that just the clothing choices and several things like that. And also, I kind of want to defend the thing that you didn't like about Dooku not going to assassinate or Jango not going to assassinate, because if either of them had done it, the story wouldn't have been the same. So plot is the defense of that.
I mean, yeah, it's true. It's how we ended up with a 2.5 hour long movie, but like,
but
still, it's just funny to dissect.
Yeah, it really is. Like, that's ridiculous.
Sniper blast from a rooftop would create the same sense of like, what's happening,
right? Yeah, but man, I don't have a set list. Come back to me. I'm sure I'll come up with something else.
This is all you get. This is your only chance. This is all you get.
Man.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll come back. We'll come back to you. Aaron, why don't you? I'm sure you have.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Guns loaded. So go for it.
There you go.
I don't know if guns loaded is the right question. I think my take on my cons of this movie are very different than the rest of what's been fielded so far. Um, we've been talking about bounty hunters, so why don't we start there? Like, bounty hunters were kind of like the OG, like, cool people of Star Wars, right? You know, you had Boba Fett, Dengar, IG-88, you know, all of those guys. And they had limited screen time, but you know, for a long time we were stuck with the comics, you know, the books, and these guys played a huge part. Boba Fett, Mandalorian, whether he's actually a Mandalorian or not is a different discussion, but like he's one of my favorite bounty hunters. So obviously we see our first tastes of him here. But you know, with the whole Jango Fett, you know, his father, the clones, that was a really cool interpretation on the whole thing. And the lady bounty hunter, Zam, or whatever her name was, like if you kind of get into the lore and the legends of it, like she was supposed to have been a very powerful bounty hunter. She was kind of supposed to have been like Cad Bane, like ultra powerful, like the fact that she could shapeshift for long periods of time. Like she was supposed to have had like unmatched skill, like in the Claudite people, you know, like ultra skillful. And then she ends up bleeding out on the floor like 2 minutes after you wound her after a failed assassination attempt. Like that was really disappointing when you kind of look at like bounty hunters are supposed to be the really cool people, and she had an important job. She didn't do it, and oh yeah, she's dead. So I think, you know, that was kind of disappointing. You know, that was not very well handled in my opinion. But I think it's not necessarily tailored to this movie, but a lot of different movies in the Star Wars realm. Is if you look to the original trilogy, why are they so awesome or like relatable, or why do they feel like Star Wars? Well, it's because George Lucas went and filmed in real places and it was all practical. You know, like Tunisia for the dunes, and you know, they went and actually went out to the snow. And then like with the episodes 1, 2, and 3, we're kind of getting back into like what Mikey was saying, the digital world. And they've kind of gone a little too far the other direction. And now all of a sudden we have no ties, we have nothing to reference, we don't know what's happening. So I think it's not specific to this movie, but you know, I've always compared it to like Magnum PI, the TV show with Tom Selleck. It was a terrible show, but it was awesome because of like the people, like the camaraderie between the main characters. Everybody could relate to that, no matter what crazy weird Nazi thing was happening in the 80s with Magnum PI. There were Nazis in Magnum PI, or they were Russians, they were something. But anyway, same thing with Star Wars. You get launched into this world, but you can also relate to it because it's grounded in your reality. And then here,
There's Nazis in Star Wars?
no, not in Star Wars, but in Magnum PI.
Oh.
There is an argument to be said about some certain Skywalker movies about Nazis, but once again,
Yeah.
that's
I can already.
We're not doing the Nazi.
No.
We're not doing the Nazi talk on anything Star Wars. No, Nazis didn't exist in Star Wars. Go ahead. Sorry.
Exactly. No Nazis. It was merely allegorical. No, but so I think that's kind of my takeaway from these movies as far as cons is we went from a trilogy that was ultra grounded in reality and like we could relate to it even though it was like super different. You know, like there was enough familiarity that we knew what was happening. And then in these newer Star Wars movies, all of a sudden it's like we're on the same types of worlds. It's like, ooh, it's a desert planet. Ooh, it's like, you know, water. But like there's nothing familiar about it. So that makes you have to like establish characters. You have to establish like locations. You have to establish timelines. I think that's part of the reason why these movies are so confusing, is because instead of having a key element that you already subconsciously know, you're having to figure it all out. And I think that's why The Mandalorian is wildly popular, because it feels like Star Wars. Because, you know, Dave Filoni, he's figured it out. He's figured it out. And then, what's his name? Doug. I can't think of his last name. Starts with a C. He's one of the main guys that's working on The Mandalorian as well. he basically said in an interview that they had a third the time, half the budget of like a feature-length Star Wars film, but they had to produce twice the amount of content. But yet it still feels more amazing because they did practical effects. They like rooted it into like realities that we know, like common elements. So I think that's my biggest con. Is this these movies almost don't feel like Star Wars. You could have interpreted the whole movie with different characters and different names, and it might have made just as much sense.
I think that's a good take, honestly, because you had alluded to like the effects and CGI and stuff being too try hard. And yeah, I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself for sure. Like I said, Mikey was saying that the CGI is better in Phantom. I think there are definitely bad scenes in this movie for sure, like you mentioned the factory and stuff like that. But I do think that there was a lot of like, things done that made it look, and for a lot of it better. But scenes that were unnecessary looked bad. Like the factory scene is just dumb, like just stupid, and it does look like crap. So yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But no, I like that take, Aaron. I think that's a great con. Like somehow you ended up complimenting the movie. I don't know how you did that. Is there anything else con wise from you?
Um, Not really. I mean, it's kind of everything else that's been said, like cheesy acting, cheesy dialogue, and that's a shame because they had good actors. They honestly did. And they managed to somehow overshadow potential acting greatness with horrible writing. It's not even acting because, I mean, working in the film world years ago, like you can have the best actors but horrible writing and it doesn't make a difference. I think character development is something that I really look at when I watch movies, like, and there's not a lot of it here. And like Caleb said, like this is Anakin stinking Skywalker. Like, this is like the dude of dudes for Star Wars. And we just have a whiny little kid that doesn't really do much besides kill people. And that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, no, it's well put, and you're not wrong. So there you have it. Mikey, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on to Ryan's thoughts?
Inconsistencies. Why? Okay, everybody loves Obi-Wan Kenobi in this trilogy, in this series, because Ewan McGregor is awesome, but his character is inconsistent. Like, a big one for me is the Count Dooku fight. That's the most boring fight until Yoda shows up. That is the most boring fight. He pretty much destroyed Darth Maul in about 5 seconds. How come he's struggling with Count Dooku? Go for it.
Does that mean he's the like trilogy's version of Rey Skywalker defeating like all of her enemies with no skill or practice? Does that just instantly make him on that level? That's a travesty to say.
Yeah, but I mean, because he's doing like sweet flips and stuff in Phantom. He's like bouncing around the place, but then I wonder if maybe that was to not upstage what Yoda came in and did, because at the beginning of Phantom when they're sneaking onto that ship and they're like lightning fast in some shots. I believe that's something I brought out when we did that review, where you can see how fast Jedi are. Why are their fights so slow? Like, you see an Anakin at the very beginning of the fight where he like lunges like 30 feet at him, but then when Obi-Wan's fighting him, he's just like struggling the entire time. I don't get that.
I think there is so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb. You go for it.
No, it's just that last lightsaber fight. It's one of my least favorite lightsaber battles in all of the movies because it just feels so forced and scripted. Because what they needed was they needed to establish that Dooku was, a really powerful Sith, so that when Yoda showed up and fought, that they could have an evenly matched fight. And it's so obvious in the way that they do it, where, they have Anakin, run out and instantly get pummeled, and then Obi-Wan has to battle him alone, and he ends up not lasting very long. and then Anakin gets back up and has those 2 lightsabers and then loses a limb. It's just like, but it feels so scripted, and it's like, yeah, it's like not convincing at all. And then Yoda shows up and does a billion little flips, and you have this, and then it's just kind of, to me, a little bit of a letdown that, okay, this is Yoda, the like ultimate, Jedi, and he's just a CGI character flipping around a bunch of times, wielding a lightsaber. And it's like, there's no real like necessarily skill there. There's no emotion there. There's nothing that really humanizes those characters at all in that moment. It's just very forced and scripted, and just, I don't know, it doesn't translate very well for me.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's doubled by the fact that in Phantom Menace, we had probably one of the most legit and amazing choreographed lightsaber fights of all time.
Yep.
Like Ray Park, amazing. Like the dude is a legend, and it showed. And so then it's like you kind of lead with that. And then like instantly in the next movie, you're back to this like, ooh, lightsaber, Yeah, it didn't really like, I don't know. I think we just were expecting more at that point because we had been given so much more.
And not to nitpick that scene so much, but there's one part. Okay, so Anakin gets his second lightsaber chopped in half, right? And then he feels the need to cut that pipe open. It shoots a bunch of sparks for some reason. And it looks cool, but when you see it, he's all like, and then 30, I kid you not, it's probably 30 seconds of them just flourishing and not touching sabers at all.
Yes, it's like close-ups of their face, like it's a movie from the 1970s.
I think I literally listened for it. I was like, okay, I'm waiting for like a hint that they actually touch sabers. I only heard once. It's like a tizz, but then it's all woo, 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 like, well, I don't get it.
Well, there's a cool moment in the next movie in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin and Obi-Wan are doing the same thing, but it works because there's actual emotion behind it, and you can tell that they're actually like battling. But in this, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
I think a critique of what I think would have been cool, and is it to make Dooku look more powerful, because he did the same thing. If Dooku would have been kind of like old Obi-Wan and more calm and composed, less flourishing, and Anakin's just over there just, you know what I mean? That would have been cool, and it would have been, then I would have been like, oh, okay, don't mess with this guy. But he was doing the exact same thing. Like, it was over the top, and if they would have brought it back a little bit.
Yeah, at that point, they're showing you, like, that's a good point, because they're showing you, Anakin's, his mentality, how his mentality is. And
it's character development at the sacrifice of story. Like Caleb said, or I think it was Mikey, I don't remember, but they're trying to show you how cool he is, but like it doesn't really fit anything else. It's setting it up for Yoda, but it's story butchering, trying to tell someone how cool someone supposedly is.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, don't tell me. Don't tell me about it. Like, don't tell me that Anakin's cool. Like, show me he's cool with his actions, because everything leading up to that, all of his decisions and stuff like that, leading up to that moment, it doesn't feel deserved. And I think that's a big problem in that whole last fight. To Mikey's point, or to Aaron's point about, the well choreographed mall fight, arguably probably the best fight in history, actually, when you think about it. Don't go there, Mikey. Don't go there. It's one of the best, maybe not the best, but it's one of the best. Don't do it. Don't say Obi-Wan and Anakin. I'll kill you all.
I wasn't going to. I was going to give props to the new trilogy, but I'll save it, I guess.
I was going to too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I think
me and Mikey are on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best for sure. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, my thought was, this is exactly highlighting what I kind of said, is take, for example, Cad Bane, Mandalorian, or not Mandalorian, sorry, Bad Batch. He wasn't really in the Clone Wars, but we knew he was a guy, right? To an extent, like broad strokes. Bad Batch. he shows up, the Western music, the Western flair. Like, not that like I liked he was Western, but you instantly knew what he was about. Like, there was no character development you needed. Like, because he was rude. Like, we already applied like kind of our social stereotypes to him, like gunslinger, like really cool, like on the fly, like all those things. We already knew what he was about. Whereas like these characters that we're talking about, we're having to like waste valuable time in the story for someone we've never really even seen before, and yet we have to respect them. We have to know what they're about. We have to like establish like social order. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of what I was saying is it's not effective storytelling because like I think Cad Bane is a good example because like we saw him for like a couple seconds in that one episode and we're like, I already know what you're about, dude. Like, you're gonna lay it down and you're bad. And then like, it's just with Dooku, we had movies of him just floundering and wrecking the story.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Mikey. I'm gonna.
No, you're all right.
I'm gonna go. It's frustrating to me because I do think where the Phantom Menace kind of comes full circle. I enjoyed it a lot more because of the Clone Wars. This movie does not do a thing for me, like in terms of like the grander scheme of the story. These characters just don't feel redeemed, like redeemed is the wrong word, deserved. Like their decisions do not feel earned. Like the things that happened do not feel earned. It just, kind of like what Aaron was saying, it just feels like a way to kind of show off for a lot of it. And, as a casual movie watcher, it's like, okay, fine, whatever. Like it's fine. But like as a Star Wars fan, and I'm trying to approach these movies, like these prequels, as not a hardcore Star Wars fan, because I love Star Wars. Like we all love Star Wars. That's why we're here. But it's just, I like how Aaron put it. You didn't have to know, like, you don't have to know Cad Bane at all. Like, it's just that, and I haven't seen that moment yet, but it sounds awesome. Like I haven't seen that part of Bad Batch yet.
Spoilers.
It's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Spoilers.
It's fine. But like, you don't have to. You could argue the same thing about The Mandalorian though. Like the first season, whenever you hear those spurs on the boot, you were like, holy crap, like who is that? And then hardcore fans are like, oh my God, that's gonna be Boba Fett, right? And it's just it's interesting how little subtleties and showing is so much more beneficial than telling, but the things they showed us here didn't make any sense. Like for a lot of these characters, like it was just like, okay, like it felt subconsciously inconsistent. So yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead, Mikey. One more last con, and then you need to wrap it up.
It's not really a con. It's just something with this movie and this part of the trilogy. It's just less is more, and people love that about the original trilogy, and it doesn't. I don't know where that got lost in translation, but it's like the flourishes. It's all flourishes and no like, oh, that was cool. It was all like, okay, what's going on here, But yeah,
I think the biggest breath of fresh air, like you were just saying, was my brother bought me the book The Art of the Mandalorian, and like the first 30 pages are all like interviews or like like people who have been involved in it, like the artists, the story, and like this is exactly what they've said is basically that we need to get back to that, like less is more, because we don't need to show us that Star Wars is the big galaxy. We know it. We don't need to show them that like we need to like help bring back that element of, we all know what Star Wars is. And while that may not be the most like technological, like the flashiest, like that doesn't necessarily matter. We need to get back to kind of that original thought. And, that's, I think, kind of what we've all said in various ways is we all know what Star Wars is. We all know what it should be. And, we just have to take away from it what we like.
I like what you're saying. There is, this kind of piggybacks on something I was saying with Ethan over on Punch Counter Punch, was like, I miss those days where we were all kind of on the same page, and like the fights that we had weren't like as like line drawn in the sand types of arguments. They were like little squabbles, but we all kind of acknowledged that like this is the thing. This is the thing that we all love. And like, like of course you're going to consume this thing because it's there. Like, yeah, like you're going to watch it. And yeah, I mean, like it was also simple, you know. It was, I kind of miss, I do appreciate that there's variety, but yeah, like the simplicity and a lot of it is kind of missing in a lot of facets, you know. So well said, well said. This is a good conversation. I love this. Mikey, I hope you didn't have any more cons because we got to cut you off. We're going to go ahead and move this along. So we come to the time period where we're going to read, or actually before we do that, does anyone have anything they would have changed? I feel like we covered a lot of it, but is there, you know, one thing you would have changed, about this movie? Caleb, kick us off.
I mean, I've already talked about it, so I'll be quick. But yeah, I would have just made Anakin just more like how he is in the Clone Wars. Just more relatable, more redeemable. There's no reason, because there's a definite character shift between his character in this movie and his character in the Clone Wars, you know, TV show. And all you have to do is just make him a little bit more like that, and it would have been so much better. And this movie would definitely be bumped up a couple of points, you know, when we rate it later, like very, very, very easily.
Completely get rid of the scene with Anakin and Padme on that planet, and just give them short spurts of like, oh, they're like in love, but like denying it the whole time. And then at the end, they're a couple lovebirds and they run away. That's a better story than like, oh, they went to a planet and that was weird. What was that? You know, just make it subtle. Less is more. That's something I would change.
Also, Padme doesn't have to hate him from the beginning. Like, she kind of acts like she doesn't have to. Like, she can kind of like have a crush on him too. It's not the worst thing in the world, and that would take away half the awkwardness right there.
Totally.
She knows she into him.
Show her flirting back, like in the beginning. Like, it's not that hard, you know. Like she's flirting with him in the first movie quite a bit. Like whenever he's a toddler, why can't she flirt with him whenever he's, you know, a stallion at 19? You know what I mean?
They literally end the movie with them flirting, like him doing that smirk to her. That's the end of Phantom Menace, and then they immediately are like, "Yeah, she's totally not into you." Like, come on,
Pride and Prejudice over here. Good God,
right? But that's what I would change. Sorry,
Aaron.
If I could change one thing, I'm not wanting to be one of those old people that's like the, you know, but I really disagree with a lot of the ways they developed all the characters. Like I've said before, like Anakin was just a whiny kid that went around murdering people. I realized that there were certain steps that needed to be taken, and I think it's kind of weird, the dynamic between Anakin and Padme. I just think overall, kind of like it's been said by Caleb, Anakin's character was way more human and way more relatable and like almost lovable in the Clone Wars. And arguably that's the same time period and that's the same person, but it's not the same person. And it made the movies unnecessarily dark. Like I remembered like when these movies came out, like my mom was like, yeah, this is a movie that's like not really for kids. And it's really not. And whether that has a bearing on this discussion or not, like I think they went from a high note that was mostly morally clean to just kind of a really dark, grungy opposite. So, I mean, I essentially say redo the whole movie, but that's just me.
Just redo the whole thing. That's what you would change.
Start to
I agree.
finish.
That's my thing too. Is I would just. It's frustrating because you see glints of goodness here in some of this movie, and it's frustrating that it's just not even close to, you know, vouching for any of the rest of it. It's like, yeah, but at least they're, well, no, that kind of sucked too, you know. So very good. I love all of it. Let's read you know, Ryan's thoughts since he was kind enough to send them in, and then we'll just kind of go from there. He'll give a chance to kind of talk about it. What, Mikey?
I gotta pee.
You gotta pee? Okay, we'll take a pee break. We'll take a pee break and then wrap this bad boy up. So Ryan writes in, he says, a few notes just in case you want to use them. Says, I feel like Ewan McGregor has figured out how to act and do a good job with his character despite George Lucas's awful direction, as it's clear George Lucas has no idea how to actually direct actors. Many of the others still suffer, unfortunately. A cool line that he liked was Jedi business, go back to your drinks, was, you know, that was kind of a cool line in the bar there. He says this dialogue is still the absolute worst. Anakin and Padme's romantic dialogue is embarrassingly bad. There's absolutely no reason for Padme to fall for Anakin. We are given absolutely no reason for that romance to start. They have zero chemistry, and there's nothing about him that's really even likable, which is what we've been talking about. He says our ability to use the Force is diminished. He says, what? And I think that might have been what either Yoda or Mace Windu said that. He says, there's no lead up, no payoff, no reasons, no resolution. He says, this is nothing and it never comes around again, which he's right. Anakin's dream. This is, and I do like this because it's like, if you're going to go dark, like go full dark, you know. He says Anakin's dream about being a Jedi and coming back to free all the slaves. He says they missed a golden opportunity later on that to pay off. And I think I did not say this last time, but this is the thing he would have changed. He says when he finally does come back to try and save his mother, what should have happened is after she dies, he wipes out that clan of Tusken Raiders, and he should not have stopped there. His rampage should have continued into the town where he grew up and where all the slaves he knew were living. He could have found all the slave owners and killed them too. So here we see the dark side starting to twist him, and we have dark mirror for fulfillment of that dream he had as a child, because he freed the slaves, but he did it with mass murder. So, which makes sense. I mean, that would have made sense in the grander scheme of things, because, you know, whenever Anakin is serving Palpatine, they show us this. He's not doing it just to serve Palpatine. He genuinely thinks that he can rule the galaxy. Like, he thinks he can overtake Palpatine, and he wants to rule the galaxy with Padme. So in his own sick, twisted way, you know, he is essentially doing the right thing. He thinks that he is the good guy. So I like that change. I think that would have made sense. I just think it would have been, you know, a hard PG-13 for sure. Had they done that.
I'm just imagining Anakin killing like Watto and
Jenny.
that's what they did with the younglings. It's exactly what they did.
It's true. It is true. And I think, and this is kind of what I went back to last time, is like, I wanted to see, they could have had more inklings, because, you know, like, Star Wars isn't afraid to show parallels, you know, throughout all of the movies. So it wouldn't have been the most terrible thing to have something, you know, kind of more present here in that movie, as well as the next movie. It's like, oh God, okay, he killed everyone in the town he grew up, but good God, he killed kids in the next one. So that takes it even a step further. It kind of shows that progression as he goes. And again, they're not telling us, they're showing us that progression. But yeah, I just imagine him busting into Watto's, you know, his lair. He'd be like, Andy, did you find Smee? You know, Danny,
I feel like
little Danny.
If he would have did that, I feel like if he would have did that though, Obi-Wan would have immediately dropped him as a Padawan, and the story would not have continued.
He might not have known though, because I think that would have played into. Because at that point, you know, Palpatine's influence is kind of there, right? Palpatine's influence is there, and Obi-Wan doesn't pick up on that, nor does anyone else at that time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and that would have been a good kind of like counter to Obi-Wan's being like, oh, like, you're not that attuned to the Force. And, you know, Anakin was like, oh, and you are that attuned to the Force, you know? So it would have been an even better dig on Obi-Wan. It would have made their fight even better in the third movie had he not even known that he killed all those, you know. And who's to say that Obi-Wan even knows if Anakin killed all those sand people or not? I don't think it ever confirms whether Obi-Wan does know or not. So
I don't think he does. I think the only person that knows about that is Padme and Palpatine.
Yeah. So those are Ryan's thoughts.
I was going to say we could get into this in a next episode review, but speaking of talking about that character development of, you know, knowing the bad things, Padme knew about all the younglings too. We can get into that later, but she still was like, ooh, I still love you. So I don't think that's necessarily a valid argument, because
psychopath.
That was a different person. That scenario happened, and yet we still have the rest of the story.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, these are the types of discussions that I like about Star Wars, is like these character moments, you know, and like these are the conversations we used to have. It's like, oh, I wish we would have done this differently, right? You know, so yeah, I love that we bring that out. All right, it's time to read the tweets, because this baby is going over an hour and a half. we tweeted out, and you can follow us over on at WBC Prod if you want to get in touch with us. That's One Will Be Critic Productions. It says we are back at it again tonight with our review of Attack of the Clones. What is your, and I put Attack of the Clones with an exclamation point because that's what this is, Attack of the Clones, exclamation point. What's your take on this movie? Comment below and we will read it on the show. Ryan Dalton, which we just read his thoughts, he says easily the worst prequel. Okay. Ethan Maestri says, I cheered with the crowd when Yoda took up his lightsaber. I cringe to this day whenever Anakin and Padme are on screen together. Sadly, it's the Anakin Padme narrative that jumps to mind when I think of this movie. It was poorly done. The rest of it was fun. Jim Tasty, and in parentheses, Brett, friend of the, he's a good streamer. Go and check him out. He says, not the worst Star Wars movie. So I'm assuming he probably thinks that the worst Star Wars movie is The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, I mean, those are all, I think, pretty, usual takes across the board. It's the idea of like the worst Star Wars movie. This is probably my least favorite one for sure. Which kind of leads us into our review. So, overall, I think there are decent things about this movie. It's definitely not my favorite and the least, like, not even close to being even close to my favorite, and is definitely my least favorite one. But even with that, I think I'm going to give it I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Just right down the middle. I don't hate it. I don't love it. There are things I do like about it. There are things that I noticed this time watching it that I had never picked up on before. And again, another example of, I think the Clone Wars makes this, makes the prequels more likable in a lot of ways. So Caleb, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah, this is probably my least favorite of all the Star Wars movies, but it's still a Star Wars movie, which means it's definitely not the worst thing in the world by a large margin. So I'm going to give it a 5. Like, it's fine. And again, if you can turn your mind off, and it sucks when you when you dissect everything about Mikey's losing it.
Sucks when you suck.
No, when you dissect everything that's bad about this movie, it makes you just loathe it so much. But if you can just turn your mind off, it is enjoyable. It has some really good parts. I know for whatever reason, like, my wife loves this movie. Like, she thinks it's a great time. And as a kid, Attack of the Clones was probably my favorite Star Wars movie for some inexplicable reason. But yeah, it's fine, but just not great.
Well said. Mikey, you go ahead, and then Aaron, just follow right after him.
I will never say that I don't like a Star Wars movie. I love Star Wars. Like at the outset of this episode, I said that I like this movie. I do like this movie. I mean, it's fun. It's got some action in there. The characters are interesting. I mean, it's entertaining. It may not be good entertainment, but it's entertaining. It still draws you in because if you love it or you hate it, But for my score, it is definitely my least favorite Star Wars movie, and I'm probably going to give it a little worse. I'd probably give this a 4 because my opinion is, well, my negatives on this movie definitely outweighed my positives, So I can't give it a right down the middle like with a 5 because it's just, there's so many things about this movie that are just wrong, So I think 4 is, it's not harsh, but it's definitely low.
I think for me, any Star Wars has like a baseline number. Like, I'm more inclined to watch Star Wars than anything else. So like, this would at least be like a 6 in my book, as far as like general movies. But this movie, amongst every other Star Wars movie, it's probably about a 4. It depends on how you rank it, but it's mediocre at best, but definitely watchable. So it gets some points for that.
I think about this movie and like, Star Wars in a lot of ways kind of set the precedent for, you have a good setup movie, then you have the one that's like, what are our heroes going to do? You know, like this should be kind of like a climax or kind of a dark moment, you know, potentially, and the second one. And they had plenty of opportunities here to make that happen. And I guess you could say like, oh yeah, the good guys lose at the end because you know, Anakin gets his arm chopped off, and you know, like Obi-Wan almost dies, and you know, the bad guy gets away, and that is true. I don't care about it at all. Like, it doesn't feel impactful in any way. It just feels like it's just kind of floating, you know, it's just floating around, you know, amongst Star Wars movies. But I do appreciate what you said, Aaron, about how there's like a baseline set. Like I would probably rather watch this movie than a lot of other movies. So, you know, it's still a Star Wars movie. Ladies and gentlemen, after a bunch of technical difficulties, and almost an hour and 40 minutes later, we have made it through our review of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. If you want to have your thoughts, you know, read on the show, if you have anything for us, you can email us at thewannabecollective@gmail.com. You can tweet at us, follow us there. You can watch our prompts, you know, or watch for our tweets where we're going to be asking for your opinion. But you know, if you want to get in touch with just me or other people here, you can follow us directly as well. Aaron, I hope you had a good time for your first, you know, episode here on the Wannabe Collective. I really appreciate you. You know, Aaron just kind of jumped in last minute. He was like, yeah, man, like I'm down, and we'll definitely have you on for future episodes. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to happen. And make sure you tell your wife, thank you for giving your time. You know, that should be hers. So Caleb, do you want people to be able to find you?
Sure. So you can follow me at ChiefNNY18 on Twitter if you want to.
Okay. And Mikey, you don't want to find Mikey. You can just email us if you want to get in touch with Mikey. He doesn't do social media.
There you go.
All right. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. We will see you next time for Revenge of the Sith, which is next week. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Adios.
Goodbye.
Have a good one.
Well, whatever possessed you to check out any of the content that you saw today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If you check the description down below, you'll see that there's a variety of different projects that I'm associated with. This is Wannabe Critic Productions after all. So I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed what you saw today, consider giving some of those other projects a chance as well. There's a lot of stuff that I'm a part of that I, you know, that I do. If you were here for me or for someone else that you saw today, again, just thank you for checking it out, and I hope to see you again. But until next time, I'm Gabriel Fast, and I'll always be the Wannabe Critic.